Okay, so a couple of months ago, I ended up shattering the back glass on my iPhone 15 Pro Max. I was actually testing out an electric scooter for a review video, trying to get some cool footage of it first person while I was riding it, and I just completely dropped my phone off of the side of it. It smashed onto the asphalt, and even though I had a pretty protective case on it, it ended up shattering the back glass. Luckily, when I got this phone, it was actually the first time I'd ever selected Apple Care, and I maintained it so I didn't have to worry about the cost of replacing it because I had it covered through Apple Care. However, when I went to actually replace the phone and went in through the Apple support app to do the replacement, I had the option to take it into an Apple store where they could basically just do the replacement in person, or alternatively, they also had a newer option that I had never heard of, which is called Express Replacement. So the whole idea behind Express Replacement is that they can actually send you a replacement phone in the mail, and then you basically just switch it out with your broken one, you get the new one, and then ship them back the broken phone in the same box that the new one came in. And since I'd never heard of this, I figured maybe it was worth giving it a try just to kind of see what the process is like and document it in a video so that you guys could see whether or not it'd be worth it for you. And going into this, I had some pretty high hopes. Unfortunately, it kind of turned into a huge headache, so let me tell you what happened. So when I went to select it, the first concern that I had, which was really kind of weird to me, was the fact that they actually put a $1,200 charge on your credit card when you do the express replacement. Basically what they do is they put a pending charge on your card for whatever the value of the replacement device is. So again, in my case, it was an iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is $11.99. So for me, that was a big obstacle to get over because I really didn't like the idea of having a $1,200 charge on my credit card just for sending in a phone to get it replaced. However, after thinking about it and talking to Kenzie about it, basically I just decided, hey, I'll give it a shot just for the video, just so I can kind of document it to see what the process is like. So I went forward, I did a $1,200 charge on my Apple card, and then I received the replacement device in about 1 or 2 days. It was really quick. Now, when I received the device, I was really surprised about the box that it was in because I was expecting a brand new iPhone in the retail packaging, right? I mean, that's really the only kind of packaging I've seen before. But when this came in the mail, it basically was just a raw iPhone in a plain brown box. It honestly kind of seemed like maybe it was a refurbished phone or another phone that someone else had broken and done the express replacement on before. So I'm not entirely sure if it's a brand new device or not. Now, once I unboxed it, all I had to do was basically just transfer the data from my old phone to my new one. Of course, this is a really easy thing to do because it's very integrated into iOS because they want you to upgrade their phone every single year. So that is something that made it really easy. It took a little bit of time, maybe an hour or so, but it was really simple to do it. Just set them next to each other basically, and it'll transfer all of your data. Now, as with any iPhone, when you're getting rid of it or selling it or turning it in, you do have to turn off Find My iPhone. So that is something that I wish we didn't have to do. I mean, it makes sense, right? But I wish you could turn it off remotely because that did kind of turn into an issue in the end. So yeah, I transferred all the data. I put the old shattered phone into the same box and packed it all up nice and tight, put the return label on it, which was included. So it was a really simple process. I just went over to my local FedEx and I dropped it off, and that was that. At least that's what I thought it would be, because a couple of days later, I got my first email that really made me go, oh, man, why did I do this? I got an email saying, hey, we received the box, but the box was empty. There's no iPhone in it. And that really surprised me because, of course, I sent the phone back. So somewhere along the way, there was an issue, right? So it was either in the box that I dropped it in, it was taken by an employee, or maybe someone who got their hands on the box that shouldn't have and opened it up. Regardless, I put the phone in the box, I shipped it, and then they received an empty box. So the phone is not there, and I immediately had this horrible feeling in my gut that they were going to charge that $1,200 to me because they didn't get the phone back. And of course, since Find My iPhone is turned off, there's no way for me to locate it. So I immediately give them a call. The email that they sent me basically had a link where you can communicate with them via text or call. I called it up, and basically what happened is I just had a caseworker that was assigned to it, and they kind of were researching and communicating with me throughout the entire process. Now, I like the idea of having a single person, a kind of point of contact that you can reach, but to be honest with you, this was not a very streamlined process. That was really my first big issue with this. other than the missing phone, was that even though there was a direct way to communicate with them, it felt really clunky. Didn't feel like Apple communication because you had to click a link and then send a text through like a message box on their website as opposed to just texting them. Calling was of course a little bit easier, but I wasn't always able to directly access them. If they weren't at their desk, then I wouldn't get an answer. You do also have the option to send like a voice memo over to them, but again, it just really felt really disconnected between me and my point of contact, which is unfortunate. So once I got in touch with the caseworker, she basically just told me they have a process they have to go to investigate this, to figure out where the phone ended up. And basically what I had to do was I had to send in a document that showed proof of purchase from when I bought the phone. Now that was kind of difficult for me to find because I actually got it through Verizon and it was on one of their 0 APR monthly plans. So I didn't actually purchase it outright, but I was able to contact Verizon and get the document proving when I bought it, what the total retail price was. And I also had to hand write the serial number and the IMEI number onto the document and then send it over to Apple. So I did so as quickly as I could, and I basically just heard nothing for a really long time. I ended up following up with the caseworker a couple of times just by the phone. Again, sometimes it was hard to reach her, but when I was finally able to get her on the line, I was basically just like, hey, what are the possible outcomes for me here? Because I was really worried about being charged the $1,200, which of course I don't want to happen because I sent the phone back. But she basically just told me she couldn't tell me what the outcomes were. I was hoping that I would be told once they do the research and find out where the phone went, then we won't charge you or something like that. But she just basically told me, we're sending this to FedEx. We have to wait for them to do an investigation on this. And then at that point, once we have a conclusion, I can tell you what your options are. Which again, for me, that really wasn't very reassuring because it didn't sound like she wanted to commit to even saying that I might not get charged for it. So after that phone call, I basically just waited. I had sent in the document they requested, they were doing their investigation, and I just had to sit and wait to see what the outcome would be. And I ended up just waiting and waiting and waiting for a couple of weeks actually. It got to the point where I actually followed up with the caseworker 2 or 3 times and never even heard back from her. So again, I was really worried because it felt like she was ghosting me. I had no idea what was going on and I couldn't get in touch with anyone. So what I ended up doing is just contacting Apple support through like their regular phone number and then getting to actually speak with someone else about the matter. And basically what the new agent told me is that the person who was assigned to my case made a couple mistakes, she didn't follow up, and then for whatever reason she wasn't able to get back in touch with me. So I was kind of just left in the dark up until the point that I met that new rep. And this new rep was actually really reassuring. She was really nice and actually helped me through the entire process, answering my questions in not a really vague or obscure way. So I'm really grateful for that. But what she ended up telling me is that after their investigation was concluded, FedEx denied any liability for the missing phone. And of course, I don't know how that works. I don't know if FedEx actually looks into these things or not, but again, that made me really worried that they were gonna try to put the liability on me to pay for the new phone. So at that point, I basically just told her what my concerns were. I was really worried about this happening, and she really reassured me and told me that they can look into it a little further. Just because FedEx denied liability didn't mean that that would necessarily mean the liability is on me. And at that point, she basically just told me, hey, I'll look into this and we'll get it squared away for you as quickly as we can so I can get you an actual answer on this. We disconnected off the phone, and then actually within a couple of hours, she sent me an email letting me know that they're going to resolve the case and not charge me or put any liability on me for the missing phone. So shout out to you, Angeline. Thank you so much for helping me out on this. She was the only person I talked to throughout the entire process that actually answered my questions and wasn't vague in the answering. So I appreciated that. But really the whole point of this video at first was to show you what it can be like to use express replacement and kind of just advise whether or not it's something that's worth it. But of course, as I'm sure you can guess, I would absolutely not recommend doing this. I went back and did the math, and from the day that I sent the phone back to the day that I got that final email letting me know that they were going to resolve the case, it was 20 days. So I went basically a full 3 weeks worrying and stressing and following up and not hearing back just to get to the point where they told me that it would not be an issue. So I would absolutely not recommend doing this, and I definitely won't be doing it in the future. Of course, it might be a little bit more tedious to go into an Apple store or something, but it definitely won't be as stressful because you're gonna have the phone in your hand and there's gonna be no way for them to say, hey, you sent us an empty box. Overall, I really do love Apple as a company. I buy a lot of their products, of course, as most people do, and I haven't really had any issues with their support in the past, but for whatever reason, with this Express replacement case, it just kind of went really downhill really quickly, and I had a bad experience with it. Of course, your mileage may vary, and I would love to hear if anyone else has experience with this, what your experience was like, because I'm hoping not everyone goes through the same thing that I did. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.